Salam Sejahtera, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning and a warm welcome to all of you, and also to our speaker for today, Mr. Mohd Shahidi. Thank you for taking the time to attend this webinar today. We appreciate your presence. Our talk today is the 23rd of our continuing series of webinars focusing on Malaysia's competitiveness performance and ranking as assessed and reported yearly by international organizations. IMD, or short for the International Institute for Management Development, published this performance and rank in their World Competitiveness Yearbook, as do the World Economic Forum, or also known as WEF, in their Global Competitiveness Report. In the recent World Competitiveness Yearbook 2020, also known as WCY 2020, Malaysia's competitiveness ranking has dropped to 27th position from 22nd in 2019, out of 63 countries assessed by the IMD. This overall competitiveness score and rank is calculated based on 255 criteria comprising 163 hard data and 92 survey data, categorized into the 4 competitiveness factors of economic performance, government efficiency, business efficiency, and infrastructure. In our talk today, our speaker, Mr. Shahidi, will be presenting on total public expenditure on education per student, which is a criterion in the infrastructure factor. This criterion measures the spending per enrolled student, and a higher dollar spending per student will result in a higher rank for this criterion, according to how IMD assess this particular criterion. I'm sure Mr. Shahidi will elaborate further and enlighten us on this topic in our talk today. So before I hand over the session to our speaker, let me first briefly introduce him. Mr. Mohd Shahidi is a serial entrepreneur with experience in multiple industries such as retail, logistics, and education especially. As a serial entrepreneur, Mr. Shahidi is great in connecting with people, and he continually comes up with new ideas and starts new businesses. He started Wardah Edu Center in 2008 before founding a social enterprise called Fatul Ilmi in 2010. He then continued with other entrepreneurial pursuits and was featured in the top 100 startups by startupmalaysia.org in 2011. In 2012, Mr. Shahidi founded Tell and Search PLT, of which he is the CEO, after realizing that the talent and potential of his students were not fully explored and utilized. Since then, he has been continually involved in many programs of universities and education institutions. Also, as part of his continuing education and professional development personally, Mr. Shahidi joined the pioneer batch of CEO at Universities program at the University Kebangsaan Malaysia. In 2013, he was rewarded by SME Corp to study Advanced Leadership program at the University of Oxford. And with that, I now hand over the session to Mr. Mohd Shahidi. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Wong, for the wonderful introduction. Hi, I'm Mohd Shahidi Ismail. Assalamualaikum and good morning. Before we continue with today's topic, I would like to say thank you for the opportunity to MPC, to Mr. Wong in terms of introducing, to MPC for the opportunity in terms of this research, where I found this competitive research to be such a wonderful avenue for us to understand about our countries in terms of progress, in terms of our nation building, and in terms of improving our country as a whole. And as for today, as mentioned by Mr. Wong just now, I'll be discussing about total public expenditure on education per student, which is pillar 4.507. And again, as mentioned by Mr. Wong just now, this is a World Competitiveness Yearbook is an annual report published by Swiss Patented National Institute for Management, or it's easier for us to just call it IMD, in terms of competitiveness. And for my paper, it's basically a hard statistical data, and And what we are trying to look is in terms of how much our country spend on education per students. And right now, our country, we are ranked at number 46. And our investment per students are USD 1,745. Okay, this is a very basic general information regarding this, because for this particular topic, it depends on how much you spend per country. So we'll dwell and dive deep into it later, yeah? So in terms of trying to understand, I'll explain a bit about what the criteria, what we are going to look at. Basically, the level of the public expenditure in education is a measure of the government commitment to education. They try to look into our government's commitment in terms of education. Evaluating how government in different countries invest in education provides important context for examining how educational participation and outcomes vary between these countries. Investment in education is greatly influenced by supply and demand factors such as demographic, structure, enrollment rates, income per capita, and prices for educational resources. So these indicators covers expenditure on school, universities, and even public and private institutions that is supporting educational services. And for your info, public expenditure on institution is not limited to expenditure on instructional services, but also includes public and private expenditure on ancillary services for students and families. So something that helps the education will also be considered as investment. So for example, if BREAM was meant to help education, this is or will also be considered. Where these services are provided through educational institution, if the money goes to education institution. In terms of tertiary level, spending on research and development can also be significant and included in this indicator to the extent that the research is performed by education institution. Total public expenditure falls under the pillar of 4504 under infrastructure, where Malaysia consistently ranked below 30. Currently, we are ranked 46, ranking out of 62 countries. As we can see here, in terms of government expenditure on education per student, we are on number 46, while last year we are on the number 44. For comparison, we can see countries with the highest spending per student. Luxembourg spent USD 26,425. If we look at ourselves, we spent USD 1,745. This is like vast difference. As we can see here, Luxembourg spent 26,000. That is almost 24,000 more than us. Number two, it's Switzerland, who spends USD 21,689. Iceland with USD 17,400, and etc. As we can see, even our neighbor Singapore spends quite a lot, which is USD 12,890. But for this kind of criteria, we need to look at bigger picture. Let's say for Luxembourg, as we can see, they spent 26,425. But for them, it's because of their salary is very high across every border. In Luxembourg, they pay a lot to teachers. The annual salary for teachers there are around 125,000 USD, compared to ours around 3,000 to 4,000 as average, 3,000 to 4,000 USD as average. But we need to look at it in terms of bigger picture. As a percentage of GDP, Luxembourg spending is very frugal compared to countries such as Israel and New Zealand. Basically, they only spend around 3.9% of their GDP to education. And even Malaysia spent a bit more in terms of GDP to education. We spent more, around 4.1%. And countries that spend a lot in terms of GDP to education is Israel, where they spend 6.5% of GDP, And New Zealand spends the most, if I'm not mistaken, which is 6.9% of their GDP in terms of education. So basically, Luxembourg spend the most because they earn the most. And although the GDP percentage is quite low, but they spend a lot every year in terms of salary to everyone. They have the highest salary. They are a rich nation. And even in terms of salary, they are paying the teachers, as I said just now, 125,000 annually. That is the most in terms of every country. Only second one is Germany, which only pay their salary to teachers at 80,000 USD. So it's like 40% more than number two. How much Luxembourg spend in terms of salary to their teachers. While Switzerland, we can see here they spend USD 21,689. Basically, Switzerland is a country where they focus more on TVET, vocational training, and even their teacher's salary is quite high, one of the highest in the world. But they spend a lot in terms of TVET improvement, TVET classes. Even they have higher numbers of TVET graduates compared to university graduates because of their focus in terms of skill and vocational training. So as we can see, the highest in terms of ranking is Luxembourg, Austria at number 10, Canada number 11, and we are spending 1,745, which is number 46 out of 62 countries. And as average, we can see top 10 have spent more than USD 11,000 per student. We are still very far from these numbers. For us to improve, I guess we'll discuss a bit later, but as I mentioned just now, we have already spent 4% of our GDP for education. So it's a case of the richer you are, the higher your ranking. And as we can see here, oh, sorry. Some technical issues here. Okay. Luxembourg is top ranking country, as I mentioned just now, followed by Switzerland. Iceland is third. Our neighbor is Singapore, spent 12,800, is ranked 8th. And number 10, Austria, with spending of 11,000, as I mentioned just now. Top 10 spent more than 10,000 USD. In the 20th position is UK, who spends 8,321. And even in the 30th, which is Spain, they are spending 5,112, which is still more than 4,000 more than us, almost 50% more than us in terms of spending per student. So we can say it's very clear from our result that we need to spend quite a lot to improve our ranking in this topic. But before we go further, I would like to show a bit of advantages of investing in education. This is like general overview, just like what I read just now. But we need to remember that investing in education is crucial even, because as stated here, every USD $1 invested in early education, you can gain $17 in return. That is very high return of investment. And if every girl received 12 years of quality education, earning for women could increase by up to 30 trillion USD globally. And one additional year of school can increase a woman's earning by up to 20%. A child whose mother can read is 50% more likely to live past the age of 5. And this is so important, 420 million people will be lifted out of poverty with secondary education. So Benjamin Franklin knows when he said that investment in knowledge pays the best interest. I think I would like to take a bit of break, Mr. Wong, if there's question about our ranking, if there's some discussion to be had regarding ranking before we go to areas that we need to improve on, areas that we identify as risk, areas that we need to improve, and etc. So maybe I can, open to the viewers or even to Mr. Wong if you have any question regarding our ranking in terms of this topic.
Yeah, good suggestion. Thank you, Mr. Shahidi. We now open to participants for questions at this point of time, based on what Mr. Shahidi has shared with us so far regarding this particular criterion of total public expenditure on education per student, and also looking at how it is being measured in comparison also with other countries. Are there any questions from participants so far? Okay, looks like we have no questions yet at this point of time. Probably more of a clarification. I'd like to ask a particular question here, Mr. Shahidi. Yeah, I agree with you that this criterion measures in terms of US dollar. So then it depends on the country's currency, cost of living, and for Malaysia, we are, of course, the teacher's salary and also the expenditure in terms of Malaysian ringgit is not going to be comparable with US dollars of the European or Western world. So I like it when you mentioned that it is, as a percent of GDP, we are spending about 4.1%, I think you mentioned. So just a clarification here, in terms of as a percent of GDP spending, is Malaysia's public expenditure on education per student above average in terms of as a percentage of GDP? Is it above average, especially compared to other countries in the ASEAN region?
Okay, that is not my study, Mr. Wong, but from what I've seen from my simple reading in terms of searching for my topic, I've realized that Malaysia's 4% is kind of like in the average, because the lowest is around 2 and the highest is around 6.9. We are betul-betul tengah. We are in the median area. So, but I don't really know a comparison to other countries. I'll check it out later. If you want to know, you can email me or I'll inform you guys later. But in terms of investment, 4% is basically kind of like in the average range.
Okay, all right, thank you. And you mentioned even better than some other countries that you know of, right? In Europe. All right. So we are not too bad in terms of
we are even
spending.
better than we are even better than Luxembourg, who is number 1 in terms of spending per student, because they are a rich country and they spend a lot.
Okay,
so,
all right. Thank you. Let me check whether there are any questions still from participants. No questions at this point of time. So please proceed, Mr. Shahidi. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Wong. Okay, so we'll continue with our topic, and for the next chapter, it's key authorities and regulators here in Malaysia who is dealing with spending per student. Basically, in terms of key authorities and regulators, we can see that MOE ataupun Ministry of Education is the main authority. They are the one who controls the budget. They are the one who asks for the budget. They are the one who plan. And in terms of improving system infrastructure, they are the one who's going to, get the feedback from schools. So for this particular topic, Ministry of Education is the most important authority. And I would like to, emphasize at least in terms of Ministry of Finance, because they are the one who give fund, they are the one who, collect all the data and try. In terms of salary, Ministry of Finance will be involved. And this is something that I think is a bit creative, because I found MIDA to be an interesting authority, Malaysian Investment Development Authority, because what they do is they search for foreign investment in our education. Currently, right now, they are not key authorities, but I believe that they can be in terms of education. And they also provide training for development. So they have a lot of training. So this is something that this is an authority that can really help MOE and become authorities in terms of regulations. And now we are going to discuss about key areas to improve our ranking. So we realized that there's issue, especially in terms of salary, as I focus a lot of salary. I focus a lot in terms of salary just now. But in terms of areas for us as a country to improve in our ranking, I realized that the first key is to implement and improve national education blueprint. It's because we do realize we do have our national education blueprint that covers from 2013 to 2025. And from our national education blueprint is kind of like a very comprehensive report. And there are so many areas that if we can improve and we can implement the suggestion in the national education blueprint, we can, of course, improve our ranking. And I also realized that you need to invest in students' health and well-being. For us as a country, we need to try and focus and improve a bit more in terms of health and well-being, because I realized that we are still a bit lacking in this area. And there are so many ways which we will discuss a bit later regarding this to improve and to introduce. And the obvious choice, the third key, is educator salary. This is an issue that we will dive deep later, and we are still quite low compared to, as we can see just now, to the top 10 ranking especially. And I also realized that our system, our technology, the usage of technology is still a bit far, is still quite lacking in terms, especially considered to all the top 10 countries. Even in countries like Mongolia, is not top 10, but you can see how Mongolia has very good system for their school. And we are quite lacking in terms of implementing our technology. Again, just now I mentioned about MIDA. I realized that if we can improve in terms of getting foreign investment, you can improve our ranking. And of course, there were another obvious key areas, which is infrastructure improvement and enhancement. Our internet connectivity is still quite bad in schools. Our building, there's always issues every year. There's kerosakan here, kerosakan there. Issues always popping up in terms of our infrastructure, and we need to improve. We need to build better buildings and etc. We'll look into it later a bit deeper. So I'll talk about the policies required for rank improvement. So back to implement and improve blueprint. When it comes to our national blueprint, we realized that we've identified a lot of areas to improve on. And the blueprint, we focus from student learning, we look into school and school leaders, we look into teachers. The report also covers ministry, transformation, system structure, and even in terms of delivering all this roadmap. They created a few waves. First wave is from 2013 to 2015. Second wave in 2016 to 2020. And the third wave is from 2021 to 2025. But the problem in terms of this blueprint is the implementation. As I mentioned here, many areas and recommendations are still not being implemented. And mostly we are only on the first, or best is we can go to the second wave. But even the first wave, identify the first problem, which is need to be settled by 2015. There are areas that we haven't settled yet. So we are a bit lacking in terms of implementing implementing ideas and suggestions that were stated in the reports. And also there are areas that we need to understand and try to tackle issues that were not stated. I believe by implementing all this effort, because all the suggestion requires certain amount of budget, and by implementing the suggestion, we can also improve our spending per student, and at the same time improve our education system. And in terms of student developmental profile, I believe that we need to spend a bit more for this students, because even in the title it mentioned per student. So we need to spend on the students themselves. What we are lacking right now is we don't really have holistic data, very having all the data of our students, all demographic of our students. Last week I talked about secondary school enrollment, and from my study there, I realized there are quite a lot the issues. There are quite a lot of ways for us to improve our ranking just by having data, and we don't even have a system for it. And I believe the government need to spend in terms of rating system that will look into all this data. Maybe have one portal, one big system where all the demographic of our students, all the data of our students, how they did in their exam, how far did they live, their demographic, their background, economic backgrounds. And if we can have all those aspect going, we can if we can look and we can study all the aspect, we may understand the students' issues. We can help them in terms of improving in their education, and even create a more holistic, more wholesome person. And I would also love to suggest a system where we also track their mental health development. As we realize right now, mental health is an issue that is that is quite a big issue. Suicide cases, depression, anxiety are prevalent in almost every universities and even in secondary school. So understanding, realizing, having data, making policy that is based on data are crucial in my opinion. And we need to spend on that. And if we can spend on that, it's going to give a very good return, not just in terms of ranking, but also in terms of development of our students. My third point is to improve technology usage, which is quite related with my point just now, and to have online platform. As we can see right now, COVID-19, because of that, there's always issues in terms of pengajaran dan pembelajaran PDP. Our teaching and learning process are impacted by the fact that there's COVID-19. So if we can have better system, if we can have our portal, if we have a medium for teachers to use, online medium, it's going to be smoother. We can't really hope for another pandemic for us to be in this kind of situation. Technology needs to be used, and investment in terms of technology is crucial. The problem even right now is issue of internet connectivity in schools. There's not enough computers in schools, and we need to address that. We need to invest in terms of providing technology, providing computers, and to have one system to monitor all, so that we can help in terms of collecting data of our students, collecting data of our schools, and we can make decision based on data, not just based on our leaders who are always changing, not from our gut instinct. Because I realize nowadays our decision making are not really based on data. It's based on this situational, based on what's popular and what will help them. But I guess what we need right now is the best decision, and the best decision came, I think, in my opinion, is data driven. So I really hope that we can spend a bit more in terms of improving our technology, uh, from delivering better internet connectivity to having better system and to collect the right kind of data. And again, this is for us to prepare for Industry Revolution 4.0. So I hope that we can realize this and we can improve our spending in terms of technology usage. And back to the basic issues, which is infrastructure. We need to go and check our education institution buildings, and it needs to be fixed. I heard, my wife is a teacher, by the way, so this is a bit personal. She, wanted to do a computer lab in a school, but there are so many issues, from wiring to internet connectivity, and even, the building is not so safe. This is a very basic issue that shouldn't be brought up, shouldn't be faced by our teachers in 2020. But again, we are still facing this issue. And I really hope that we can spend a bit more in terms of infrastructure. And we hopefully we can have up-to-date material, up-to-date technology, and if we can, it will be better if we can invest in terms of sustainable building. We can create something that is sustainable, which is going to be better for the environment. Another way for us to improve our ranking in terms of investment is to work with international education bodies. There are quite a lot of international education bodies outside of Malaysia. I mentioned here Plan International, Global Partnership for Education, and etc. And even Bill Gates has Gates Foundation, where we can try to work with them, try to get funds, because this is also one of the areas where if we do get funds from other countries, it can also improve our ranking. I'm putting the most crucial and the easiest way to improve our ranking, which is increase teachers or educators' salary, right in the below, because it's very obvious, but also not really sure about our ability to spend a bit more in terms of salary, because we have spent a lot in terms of salary to our civil servant. Let me check a bit of my notes here. Even this year, civil servants emoluments, civil servant salary are projected to increase by 2.6% to 82 billion in 2019 and 82.6 billion in 2020, primarily due to annual salary increment. So we are spending 82.6 billion to this year just to civil servants. And I guess the issue is how much can we pay the teachers? Because I realize if teachers' salary is a bit higher, our education will also improve, as we can see in countries like Finland, where teachers are being paid quite well, and teachers is a job that people aspire to be because of their salary. Right now in Malaysia, we can see a trend where people become teachers because that is the easiest job, or if they don't get any other jobs. So teachers' image are not as high as it used to be. And, I believe by increasing salary, we also improve the quality of our teachers and can also improve, the talent pool that they can gain by just increasing the salary. But I guess it's not wrong for us to suggest to improve the salary and make it a bit more a job that people will aspire to be. And again, not just by increasing salary, we can also spend in terms of training for teachers. We can create workshop for them to deliver better results. Gates Foundation have funds for this. For example, in America, they spend quite a lot in terms of teaching their teachers and improving the methods of teaching. And all this banquet, all this workshop can be done and can of course improve our teachers' quality, and at the same time we'll be will help us in terms of gauging or in terms of understanding our teachers' level and areas to improve on. And I also try to be a bit more specific here, where I try to put it into classes from preschool to primary and secondary to tertiary level in terms of areas where we can spend. In terms of preschool, we realized that what we can really do for teachers and educators is to improve their salary, or maybe have higher remuneration and etc. We can provide training and maybe have a more conducive working environments for every preschool, be it government or non-government preschool. In terms of student, we maybe can have a more holistic assessment for our preschool students. Of course, again, conducive working environment and a good school environment will really help the students to have better learning experience. And at the same time, if we spend more in terms of our school improvement, it will improve our ranking. And again, to utilize technology. Nowadays, we can see in a lot of other countries, there's so many ways in terms of teaching and utilizing technology for preschool students. One school in San Francisco used the game Minecraft to teach students to how to build things, how to by just playing the games, they are learning things that they can learn. They are utilizing the games to ensure that students can enjoy and be involved in the class. And another way for us to utilize technology is to have a more holistic assessment to understand whether our student's ability is on par with his age or not. There are so many ways where we can collect data of the students and try and evaluate, try to use the data to help the teaching and learning process, and even use the data to help the students to realize the students' ability and to realize the students' possibilities and talent. Again, for preschool, the easiest is to improve the infrastructure, create a safer and more conducive infrastructure, and of course, up-to-date materials. For primary and secondary, for teachers, it's going to be kind of the same, where to improve our ranking is to increase the salary and remuneration for our teachers. And of course, provide better training. And again, another point that I've mentioned just now, to have a more conducive working environment. We realize that our school infrastructure is not as good as we hoped, and hopefully we can spend a bit in terms of this, and in terms of creating a class where there's internet connectivity, where there's no safety issues, and a very comfortable and good environment. In terms of student, we need to have a holistic assessment, especially for secondary students. We need to realize the talent and potential. We need to understand their mental health condition. We need to collect data on their results, and make the best decision for them before they enter the tertiary level. Or as we can see in Switzerland, they spend a lot on vocational training. So maybe what we can do is to have assessment and to look whether they are more suitable to go into vocational than just to go into science or accounting stream. So it's about realizing our students' talent and potential, our students' ability, what their interest is, and maybe try to improve our TVET, our vocational training image, and try to ensure our students to be a bit more interested in terms of continuing into vocational training. Because in terms of secondary school student, this is a time for them to choose the right path for them, and extending this using data and looking even into their exam result will of course help in improving their chance of being successful in the future, and at the same time improving our spending and improving our ranking. And utilize technology in terms of primary and secondary. We need to have classes for computer classes, computer lab, which is lacking in most school right now. Proper computer labs are important, and usage of technology is important. Kids need to know how to use the internet, because basically when they are back home, they will have their phone and they'll use it up to them. So it's important for school to teach students on how to utilize the technology, how to use the internet properly, and how to get information and improve their education using the internet. So right now I realize that there's always issues for students to bring their phones. We are trying to stop them from using phones at school, but I believe the best way is for us to utilize the technology that they have. They need to have the information on their hands. They need to know how to use the phone. Maybe we can have apps that can help teachers in terms of teaching by using the phone to deliver the teaching and learning. But whatever it is, we need to spend a bit more in terms of technology, and we need to really utilize the technology that we have. And again, infrastructure is something that is basic and something that shouldn't be brought up right now, but we need to still improve our infrastructure. And I sound like a bit of broken record because I will always use the same point, but for infrastructure, I believe we need to have sustainable building. We need to try and implement sustainable medium, maybe to have solar panel, to use green technologies to help in terms of environment, and at the same time we'll be able to teach our students to appreciate about the environment and sustainability. For tertiary level, it's going to be kind of the same, and for student it requires holistic assessment, school improvement. We need to utilize technology for university student, and again, infrastructure needs to be up to date, needs to be improved on. But for tertiary is to have more support and emphasize on research, because by spending for research, it can also improve our ranking for this particular topic. So my conclusion for this particular topic, it's quite obvious for us to see that for us to improve our ranking, we need to improve our spending. Of course, we can't be in the top 10. I think to be in the top 10, you need to be a rich country, as mentioned just now by Mr. Wong and even by myself. Rich country are the one who is going to be in the top 10. But by improving our spending on education, it's not just going to improve our ranking. This is a good, very basic statement, but it will also improve in other pillars, in other topic that is in other criteria that is being judged by the IMD. Spending smartly is something that smart spending is required, is something that will benefit not just in terms of ranking, but it will also benefit in the longer term. It will also bring other benefits, trickle down effect, where there are so many areas, there's so many possibilities that will be cherished if we can spend smartly. Again, implement and improve our national education blueprint, because I put it into conclusion because we have spent a lot on our national education blueprint, and it has realized a lot of areas to improve on, but somehow it stopped. We don't really follow it per se. We are not able to follow the recommendation, and I guess partly it's because of our spending in terms of education. We need to emphasize, look into it and spend wisely on that. Because we have spent to the consultant, to the team that come up with this national education blueprint, but then we are a bit worried to spend in terms of implementing what they suggested. I think we should do that. And our national education blueprint, in my opinion, is quite wholesome suggestion, and it should be focused on, and it should be implemented. And of course, again, utilize and spend on technology, because I believe what we are heading towards that. And because of COVID-19, we can see how crucial technology is, especially information technology. Classes are being conducted online, and we need to really focus on all these online classes. We need to really have a better infrastructure for students to enjoy the class, for students to gain the benefit of having an online class, so that we can still study whatever the situation is. Education can still go on whatever the situation is, because COVID-19 may stop us from going and meet our friend, but we can still meet them online, and we can still learn and teach online. So I guess that's it from me today. I would welcome any questions, or maybe we can discuss a bit more. This is quite general and basic, because it's hard data, and it's quite easy for us to improve our ranking. It's just by improving our spending. So I would like to open the door for questions, and maybe if we can discuss a bit more on certain points, Mr. Wong, maybe we can do that. And that's it for now.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mr. Shahidi. So again, please feel free to post your questions, ladies and gentlemen, those who have attended or who are in this session today. I'm still waiting for questions to appear on the question box here in this webinar. So anyone has a question, please feel free to post the questions, and I will relay them to our speaker today. Okay, while waiting for the first question from the participants or audience, probably I can ask one question here. I kick off the question and answer session here, Mr. Shahidi.
Yes.
You mentioned about foreign investment, or if you can collaborate with foreign companies or organizations to help us in our education system. So could you elaborate on which aspects of our education that foreign investment can make a significant impact for us in Malaysia? Is it related to technology, or is it related to syllabus or anything? Or upgrading the skills of educators, things like that. Okay, please, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wong. That is a very good question. I believe when it comes to working with foreign education bodies, there are so many areas, and as you mentioned, three of it, all three are important. In terms of technology, of course, we can work with other bodies in terms of implementing new technology that has been used. We can work with countries that has better system in terms of technologies. And in terms of upgrading skill, as I mentioned just now, Bill Gates Foundation, they spend quite a lot in terms of improving their teachers, improving their skill set, improving their teaching capabilities. So maybe there is some areas where we can work on. Maybe our bodies can go and talk to Gates Foundation. Maybe we can write, because they are offering grants. Maybe we can write research and asking for grants from Gates Foundation. We can also look into other countries, as we have done last time, where we went to Finland to understand their education system. And that is something that is so wonderful, because you can see in Finland they have a very wonderful education system. There's no exam. There's only one exam in 12 years of education. They don't really focus on that, but they focus on, teaching, learning, gaining knowledge. Every school are the same. Every level of school, they don't really have sekolah, asrama penuh, MRSM and all that, because every school are the same. Your school next door is as good as the school in the big cities. So what they did is wonderful, and we can spend on that. We can work with Finland in terms of trying to emulate part of what they have. Even countries like Singapore, our neighbor, I've been there last time. I visited a few schools, and I realized, they focus and even spend in terms of creating a more humane students. I see that they right now they emphasize on being human. They don't really want students who are stressful. They don't want students who are exam based. Now they are creating students that is more wholesome. So in their curriculum, there's subject, or there's, what do we call it? There's curriculum where they went to projects where they help the poor, where they do all these activities, outdoor activities, kayaking, hiking, and etc. They're trying to, create a wholesome students. Even I was so surprised when I found one of the quotes that they write is to appreciate. They want their students to, be humorous, to create jokes. They want them to be someone funny. That is not something that we associate with Singapore. But I guess they are, trying to change. They are spending in terms of creating a more wholesome student, and maybe we can do that. Maybe we can work with them, or maybe we can go and look, bring our teachers there, spend in terms of getting their syllabus, or trying to understand how other countries are working. New Zealand are also moving towards a country where they will not really focus on exam-based education anymore. So we can see all these countries are moving, and what do we call it? Is it an evolution or revolution? But they are moving. They are not really focusing on exam-based, but they are moving into creating a better human. I guess because of technology. And I believe that we need to invest in terms of technology because of this, because information, we don't really need to memorize every knowledge that we have. We don't really need to memorize all the points and do well in the exam, because we have all the knowledge here in our phone. It's about utilizing the knowledge. It's about being a better human, using this knowledge, this information that we have for the betterment of our society, and not just to, do some stupid videos. But so at the end of the day, I believe by spending, by, looking and emulating other countries, we can improve our education system, and at the same time, again, improving our ranking. But back to your question, I guess what we can do is just like what you said just now, is trying to, pick and choose a bit from others' syllabus, work with them in getting to know how they implement their education using their syllabus, and getting technology from them, and again, improving our skill set. That 3 areas that I think you yourself realize that we can use in terms of international collaboration. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the good and clear explanation. I'm still waiting for first question from the participants. No questions yet at the moment. We do have about 12, I think, participants in this webinar today, but nobody has asked any questions yet at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think let me go on to maybe my second question to you. Yeah, I like when your last slide, conclusion slide mentioned that investment in education will improve in a lot. In investment in education will improve a lot in other areas. Yes, yeah, and in the context of this WCY 2020, it will improve a lot in other indicators or other criteria measured by WCY. As we know, education itself is like a whole section, or they call it sub-factor within the factor of within the competitiveness factor of infrastructure. So education is like a subsection or sub-factor inside that, and there are many indicators or criterion being used to measure competitiveness in terms of education. Because education will sort of mold the next generation, I believe, right? And to improve competitiveness of a country like Malaysia, it is a long-term effort, not something that can happen overnight. So yeah, I would like to check what in terms of spending. Yeah, of course, spending. The more spending itself will help to increase the rank, improve the rank for Malaysia in this particular criterion measured by WCY 2020. But how do we spend? It's not just about the spending. As we know, our budget 2021 next year, budget 2021 also has a focus to improve the spending, or the focus on education, among others, among employment and social net and so on. So my question here, I guess, is which areas should we be putting more emphasis on going forward if we want to spend smartly? And like you mentioned also on the conclusions, like smart spending required from our government. So in what areas, looking at the current situation, which is this global pandemic of COVID-19, which has changed the way we work, the way we learn, and so on. And also in this era of IR 4.0, where technology is so in so many different areas, everywhere in businesses, in the social aspect, in education, you see technology coming in and making things more efficient, I guess, to get things done. So going forward, where should we be focusing on our spending if we want to increase our spending as a percentage of GDP on education? So which area, in your opinion, Mr. Shahidi, that we should focus on?
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Another good question. I would say, as you mentioned just now, because of COVID and IR 4.0, technology is going to be the main focus. I believe spending on technologies is crucial, especially right now. Although for this ranking, we need to improve our investment every year, but I believe by spending in terms of technology, in the long run, we may even save. Maybe we can spend in other areas, because by spending in technology, we are cutting down so many issues. We are going to make it easier, where there are so many areas where there's always complication can be made linear just by using technologies. In terms of teaching, we realize that right now our teachers are trying to use YouTube, using their online education system, but not every teachers are able to do that. Teachers who are in KL, teachers who are well versed in terms of technology, who has the medium to take good videos, they are the one who's going to thrive. But if you're talking about teachers in Kampong, in Sabah Sarawak, who has internet connectivity problems, then they are going to be left behind. So I think smart spending in terms of technology is important. We need to really improve the infrastructure and technology so that it can be equal. Right now, information can be gained not just from the teachers in Sabah Sarawak, but our students can use mediums such as YouTube to look into our teacher in KL, for example. And to do that, you need to, at least have better internet connectivity. And we need to think of ways, we need to spend in terms of how the technology can deliver all the information to all these students. And I believe smart spending is when we spend in terms of technology. First is to improve the teaching. Second is in terms of collecting data of our students. Right now, what we have is the basic data, their scores in exam. Even that is not really compiled and being analyzed. But we do have their results. We have where they live, their economic background, and that's about it. So maybe what we can do is try to look into a bigger picture. We look into their talent and skill set, their capabilities, their personalities, their mental health, their mental condition, and even if we are to look, because we do think about it. I can't recall right now, but there's tests on students' fitness and abilities, sport abilities. What do they call it? But we have all that, but we don't really compile all this data. We don't really have a system to monitor all this data. So if we do have one system, if we invest in terms of a platform, a technological platform, where every data is being compiled there, and there's data analysts to look and help into making the right decision, I think our education system will be better, our future investment will be smarter, and even our next generation will be better generation, just by collecting, utilizing data, and using technology in improving. So to sum up your question, I think smart spending is when we spend in terms of technology, if we focus in terms of delivering better system, better technology. So did I answer your question, Mr. Wong?
Yeah, yes. Thank you. Yeah, agree with you also that there should be more emphasis on spending on technology, yeah, to help our education system to be more efficient.
Of course,
Also the learning process to be more efficient. Yes.
Of course, other points are important, but again, it's like what we said just now. Investment in education will improve a lot in other areas, and investment in technology in education will also improve a lot in other education areas. Just by
Yes.
having better technologies, we don't really have to be worried about our school system, pandemic, and everything. So I think investment in technology is crucial, especially right now.
Okay, thanks. We still don't have any question yet. I guess let me just ask last question, and then we'll see, yeah, whether there are any questions or not. Otherwise, we will end this session. Just one last question. Balancing between investment on technology to enable sort of remote learning. You don't have to be physically there, so everybody can still study or learn from their respective homes, and the teacher can still conduct a proper lesson. Versus having physical infrastructure. So we are talking about technology infrastructure to enable remote and online learning versus physical infrastructure for better school facilities, computer labs you mentioned, safer buildings. So my question is, do we have enough schools today in Malaysia, enough physical schools? Because I noticed that we are still having 2 sessions per day, 2 school sessions, morning session, afternoon session, and the school hours are, maybe shorter compared to other countries. I heard that even in Indonesia, they practice 1 school session a day. So, what is your view on this? Do we need more schools to encourage better student enrollment, or a more effective sort of education delivery to students?
Yeah, that is a very good suggestion, actually, to increase the numbers of schools. as you mentioned, there's still some areas where there's 2 sessions. So it shows that we are still lacking in terms of numbers of school right now. And that can also be considered as spending from government per students. And I guess that is a very valid assessment, where we do need to build more schools, but again, there's going to be issues of creating and dealing and all this bureaucracy. But again, it is something that I think a very good suggestion, Mr. Wong, to have a bit more schools, which I should put right now in my points. And in terms of other countries with numbers of hours, from my simple research, I realized that countries in the Europe are not really like Indonesia, where if we talk about Finland, they don't really want their students to spend a lot of time in schools. They still prefer students to have free time to enjoy their time and enjoy the childhood. And after every 30 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, they will have break where students will relax, will be able to eat. So a lot of countries are trying to emulate Finland right now. They don't really want to create machine, they want to create human. So we are moving towards that. But I guess again, you're asking whether online system or remote classes or physical classes. I think physical classes are still very important. Remote classes is a situation when we have to, when there's issues of pandemic, if there's problems, or this is the alternative. This is something that we need to be ready on. But I do believe physical classes are still very important. Having a conducive environment, having computer labs, having a controlled environment where they, when they use internet, there's teachers to monitor, at least to teach them how to use the internet properly, and etc., will really help. It is better for students' development than just to, let them be in their house and use the internet and study remotely. I'm not really sure in the next 10 years what will happen, but for the time being, I believe physical classes are still important, and we still need to invest a lot in terms of infrastructure and even in terms of improving our teacher skill set. And again, that is a very good and valid suggestion from you when you talk about creating a bit more schools. I don't really look that deep into it. I'll check later, and I'm not really sure how big, whether the population and schools are aligned. So I'll check. Thank you for the suggestion, Mr. Wong.
Okay, thank you, Shahidi. So there are still no questions from the audience or participants. I guess we have come to the end of our talk today on the competitiveness in Malaysia, as measured by the WCY 2020, or rather the IMD, which publishes this report called WCY 2020. And thank you to our speaker, Mohd Shahidi, for a very interesting talk, and also giving us excellent insights into this topic of public expenditure on education per student. With that, I end this session today, and thank you again to our speaker and to everyone who has attended this webinar. I wish you a good day. Enjoy the rest of the week and be productive and safe, in this CMCO, especially when you are in Klang Valley area. Thank you to everyone. Bye-bye.